one family, one people, one planet, one love, one family, one people, one planet, one love, one family.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to SoulCall Global. My name is Lisa Ferrero, the founder and spiritual director of SoulCall. We welcome you wherever you are tuning in from all across the planet. Let us know where you're joining us from this morning. Just type it in your little chats and let us know you're with us this morning. We're happy to be joining you live streaming from Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, just fresh off of our second anniversary celebration yesterday at Marybrook in the park. It was absolutely it was a stunning day yesterday. We had so much fun talking about where we've been, what we're doing now, and the future of SoulCall Global. So you're going to want to make sure you read your newsletters. And if you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, be sure to go to soulcallglobal.org and sign up for the newsletter so you're aware of all the really fun events and how the shifts are going to be taking place as we emerge into the new vision, the actual vision for what SoulCall Global is, and the way we're reaching out to others who are in need on the planet. We're going to be doing some food drives again, spaghetti dinners, and then launching into our holiday event, which is going to be raising funds. It's only June. It's not even Christmas in July yet. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just want you to know what's coming. So your donations help us to plan ahead like we're doing right now to be able to help many families, hundreds of families like we have in the past, to have a great holiday season with food in their bellies and maybe something to open on Christmas morning. So we're getting all that together now. It takes that. We're learning, right? After 2 years, you know how to get ahead of the curve on these things. So thank you for your contributions, but mostly thank you for your consciousness as we evolve this world of love and intention. So this morning, as we begin every SoulCall Sunday, pulling in the energy of infinity, charging ourselves with life force, and not just hearing somebody talk about it, which is always nice, but actually asking you to co-create and participate in the practice yourself so that you know how to recharge your body battery with energy. So this morning for our Qigong practice, we welcome Deborah Weisenberger-Lipitz.
And if we continue with the small mountain, so please, with the eyes opened, look forward, stretching the vision from inside the mind's home through Yin Tang, out to merge with infinite space. From there, gather all the healing chi, love, good wisdom, and pull it back through Yin Tang to the center of the head, and very gently close the eyes. Merging inside the mind's home. From there, place your attention to the top of the head, Ba Hui, expanding up to infinite space, gathering all the healing chi, love, good information, and pull it down through Ba Hui into the mind's home, and from there, shining through, illuminating the entire body with healing chi, light, to the bubbling spring of each foot, and open up to merge with earth chi, and all the way through to infinite space. Gather Huanyang Chi, good wisdom, and pull it up, up, into the center of our being. Now we are connected above, grounded below, and merged as one, heart to heart and mind to mind. Slowly move the hands behind the back, touching the palms. Fold the fingers, straighten the arms, place the mind's consciousness between the shoulder blades. and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Squeeze, squeeze. Small mountain. Now relax the shoulders completely. Everything uniting, transforming, opening. Again, straighten the arms. Mind's consciousness between shoulder blades, chin tucked in, merged with the neck, and squeeze the shoulder blades. Squeeze, squeeze. Now completely relax the shoulders. Relax the hands to both sides and observe from above the head the entire chi body, inside and out. Slowly move the hands to the front. This huge chi field. Palms facing inward. Then cross hands to the navel. Palm upon palm on top of navel. Nourish chi. Entire inside, united, transformed, altered with chi. Relax hands to both sides. Gently open the eyes and smile from the inside out.
Thank you, Deborah. And smiling from the inside out as we welcome Reverend Christy Hardwick this morning. As you know, every second Sunday, it is Christy Hardwick Sunday. Well, I'm not ready to go there yet, but welcome. Welcome into the room. Yeah, wanted to talk a little bit about those Qigong practices. We've got a great video series that's going to be coming up for you on the website. So be on the lookout for the news about that in the newsletter, and check back on the website so that you'll be able to participate in a longer version from Deborah and from Sifu Helen Yi. So now, without further ado or further ado, please welcome Reverend Christy Hardwick, who's joining us from St. Petersburg, Florida. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Good morning. Buongiorno. Buenos dias. And whatever ways that you like to express your welcome and good morning to each other. Maybe in the chat you can put some of the languages you speak or the ways that you say good morning and greet each other. And allow us to stay in this sense of the Qigong and the energy, moving into a prayer and moving into a beautiful prayer, a prayer in the form of song by Gary Lynn Floyd that's called Spirit's Prayer. Let it wash over you, breathing in deeply these words and allowing our consciousness and our hearts to open and be willing to receive what's exactly perfect for us in this moment right now.
Loving Spirit dwells in me. This is my divinity. As within, so without. All I need is here and now. Where there's error, let me loving spirit dwells in me now and evermore. Where there's error, let me love. May I have no fear. All the power, all the glory, I surrender. Let it be. Loving spirit dwells in me now and evermore.
Beautiful. Couldn't you just stay in that all day long? Just breathing it in, breathing in the vibration of loving spirit dwelling in you. I know I could. And we could use a dose of that. Yes. What I do when it's time for me to share something with you is I sit in loving spirit and let it speak. And sometimes I'm surprised by what comes up. So, what came up this time was you're going to speak about the summer of love. So, where were you in 1967? Were you just a glimmer in someone's eye? Were you a small child? Did you actually experience the summer of 1967, the summer of love? Just think about that for a moment. Where was I in 1967? Well, in our family, we had just moved from the Haight District in San Francisco, which was the nexus of the summer of love. And we moved south and lived in a little town called Sunnyvale, California, where all the Silicon Valley sprung up later. But we were in proximity with it. And what was that summer of love thing? So much was going on. That was just one indication of it. And it's sort of the icon for the 60s, this idea of the summer of love. The music at the time, the very top song in 1967 was A Whiter Shade of Pale. Whiter Shade of Pale. It was that one with the organ music in the background, those of you who are music aficionados. Yes. But the number 2 song in all of 1967 was All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. And so there was this idea of free love, of being anti-establishment, anti-war, anti-materialism, all the things that people were against, and they were for the idea of love. Now, in 1967, this was being augmented pretty heavily by the use of psychedelics. Not only were people dressing in psychedelic colors, they were using psychedelic drugs. Some of them were more natural than others, but people were trying to take a shortcut to consciousness through the use of these substances. Now, what happened is that this culture, which was then called the hippie culture, was not considered very productive. They were considered people who were just hanging out, being authentic, yes, in their dress and their style and their way of living, but not considered contributing necessarily to the whole. Because at the same time, when you look at the backdrop of that time frame, what else is going on? A lot of other people are out marching in 1967. Several people have been assassinated by 1967. Voters' rights just been won. Women are still fighting for the freedom to control their reproduction. 1967, that's what it was at that time. And there were people who were moving into what they called the establishment, beginning to build lots of wealth. There was always wealth in the United States, but there was a movement towards this idea of being more consumers and having more. And this culture in 1967, the Summer of Love, was a counterculture that was saying, no, wait a minute. We don't need so much stuff. We just need love. So that's what it was in 1967, wherever you were in that setting. But what is it now, this idea? We're just about 10 days away or so from summer. And this summer, if we wanted to imagine it being a summer of love, this summer is in a different context than 1967, but not as different as we imagined it would be. People are marching. Yesterday, I was at a march here in St. Petersburg in a park that was led by youth. All three of the women who led this were either young women in high school or just beginning college. And their march was about the idea of reducing gun violence and protecting a woman's right to choose. And their main messages were enough is enough, and letting the senators hear the cries of people because gun control can save lives. So they were chanting and they were talking about getting out the vote. All of this happening here 55 years later, after the Summer of Love. In essence, fighting for some of the same things. One of the missing things was the idea of being on psychedelics, or this idea of free love. But it was there in a new and different way. The idea of consciousness and the consciousness of love. Even a family who spoke at this rally yesterday, who had been torn apart by gun violence, losing their son, the father spoke with a shaking voice about the day he received the call. He had just been with his son and dropped him off and received a call an hour later that he was in the hospital and he had been shot. And they lost him, and their lives have never been the same. But what they did was found an organization here in St. Petersburg about taking a pledge and helping young people to take the pledge of nonviolence in their lives early on, before they get caught up in it. So there's a consciousness of this idea of love. There's more and more people calling for forgiveness these days. Yes, we hear all the vitriol on the sides arguing with each other, and yet through it all is a clarion call to love, to forgive, to be in dialogue. And even cannabis is part of the vibe these days. I don't know how many of you, but most of us have had some kind of a CBD oil, and some people have had edibles that are helpful to them in their health. So it's really fascinating that at the time that was not legal, and now it's fully legal and fully infiltrated into the mainstream. But people are not using it for the idea of finding their way to a higher consciousness. It's in the mainstream as a way to help with supporting health. Now, another fascinating thing that's happening right now, we talked about what was in terms of the use of psychedelics. And then, as you know, they shut down the use of those for decades. But recently, they're finding that the natural sources of these psychedelics, mushrooms and other things, if used properly, are actually helping people to heal deep trauma, helping people to find their way through and have breakthroughs with what they're carrying in terms of their wounds in their bodies. So it's just fascinating. That's what was and what is, all of the same elements, but organized differently. I love thinking about the movement we've had from 1967 to now, where it seems like we are in the same place. When you think about a spiral, the spiral goes around, but it's on its way upward. That's what we have to remember. When it seems like it's going past the same stuff again, but it's at a higher level of vibration, a higher level of understanding. Science has caught up with the metaphysicians in understanding the interconnectedness. I think about this term that a lot of people use these days, woke. And I think about it in my own terms as thinking we only know entanglement. That to me is woke. We only know that we're entangled, that we're unified, that we're one within the greater field of consciousness. So we now have these ideas that are permeating. They don't seem to be moving fast enough for some of us, but there are more and more people on the planet who understand that there's only one of us here, and that what each of us says and thinks and does matters to the whole. This was the idea that they had in the summer of love, that we would have unity, that we would love everyone, that there'd be peace on earth. They weren't actively working towards it in all cases. They were, although, working towards it in their minds. Now, that same generation got caught up in materialism and strife, and some of them ended up being the Wall Street folks and all that. Like all of us, we lose our way sometimes. Our original intention, our original destination, we get off the path sometimes. I know I do it daily, and I have to remind myself I need things like loving spirit, come to me. Beautiful songs like that to remind me, prayer to remind me, yoga to remind me, qigong to remind me to return to this idea of unity in consciousness. So that's what was, this is what is today, but what can be? What can be? What can be? A summer of love in 2022? What would that look like? What would it look like for you? What are the practices that you would engage in to raise your consciousness to remember the unity of all things? And then what would you do with it? There was marches then, there are marches now. We can march. One of the things that you can do. You can speak your word. One of the things you can do. You can donate to causes. One of the things you can do. You can create art, poetry, beauty. And you know what? You can also organize your own space, plant your own garden, allow something to grow. And you can simply appreciate what is. You can appreciate nature. You can appreciate the people around you. What would love do is often the question. I switched the question for myself to say, what will love do as me today? What will love do as me today? What will my summer of love look like? How will it be different than other summers? How can I love more boldly, more out loud, more consistently? And yet it's not about the efforting. It's not that we each feel like we're not enough if we're not doing all of the things that we could possibly do. We are enough in doing anything that we can do in any moment to bring more awareness of love into a situation. We are the source of the summer of love. We are the way. We are the possibility of something greater. Yes, we are. You and I can create a new summer of love. My intention is to remember the intention of 1967, the intention that's been brewing in all of us to be greater and greater versions of ourselves. And that greater and greater version of myself takes courage. And that's our theme this month. May we each have the courage to be a greater version of love through our lives. And I'm so blessed to know, and I want you to know, that being a greater version of ourselves doesn't mean more doing, doesn't mean more having, doesn't mean being perfect. It means allowing love to move and live and have its being in us to the level of our awareness in any given moment. And that is enough. May that be your way. May it be the way for all of us. to this summer of love, to the next summer of love, to the full year of love, to the consciousness of love. Cinderella said in the wonderful remake of it, in the People version, have courage and be kind. I love that expression. I think it's so sweet. So may we have courage and be kind with ourselves and each other as we move into this summer and expand into greater and greater love. And we'll close with a beautiful song, again from Gary Lynn Floyd, Love Be With You. Namaste.
Love be with you, peace enfold you, spirit lift you, breathe it in. Truth come through you, may good flow to you, let joy renew you, till we meet again. Love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Love be with you. All together, hand in hand, we see the light, we take a stand, and we are changing. A whole new life for you and me. Take your past and set it free. Share this blessing. Love be with you, peace enfold you, spirit lift you, breathe it in. Truth come through you, make good flow to you, and let joy renew you, till we meet again. Love be with you. Love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Ooh, love be with you. Love you.
All right. Had a little dance party here. Hope you're having a dance party in your room. Thank you, Reverend Christy, for that beautiful message, inviting us all to engage in the summer of love, bringing it forth from the inside. Thank you, Gary Lynn Floyd, for your inspiration and beautiful music. Thank you to all of you who are willing to take that challenge, accept the challenge to be kind, to be loving, to be thoughtful, not only for what's good for you, but how it affects other people around you. The loved ones we take for granted, maybe, or I'm not sure about taking for granted. I don't think we realize it. Sometimes we don't realize that until after the fact. But I invite you to step into gratitude for the people around you who love you unconditionally. You know, sometimes we're teaching the lesson of love. Sometimes we're learning the lessons of love. But it's always a co-creation of the potential to grow in love as I stand in the middle of our SoulCall heart. So allowing yourself the inspiration and that courage, that mental fortitude we were talking about last week, to keep taking the steps, keep going. Because as soon as we start to move, something will come in its place to give us a little challenge. Be courageous enough to stand in love with an open heart. And vulnerability is one of those. We're going to talk about that next week. So we welcome, next week we welcome the third of our series of courage in the month of June. Stepping fully and boldly like the flowers and the burst of summer. Everything's in full bloom. I don't know how many times you've mowed your lawn this year already if you're in the Midwest, but we're getting a lot of rain. So enjoy that process, how we can cut the top of something off and the roots keep growing and growing. It is our nature. It's in our nature to keep growing. So we're going to keep growing in courage. But we thank you very much for joining us. We thank you for your donations that help us to do the things in the world that we would most like to see, being of service, helping others, making sure people are fed. That's quite an issue as inflation rises because of the world, the global economic system, and just the price of gasoline, because of all these myriad things. Read the New York Times or places like that, wherever you get your information. But the point is, a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet because of the cost of things. So we are doing another fund drive that's going to happen in the end of summer. We're going to be doing another food drop. So if you'd like to be part of that, we're collecting donations and financial and food. So thank you for your contributions. And also I want to say a huge shout out, and we could do an applause for Jean DeMusio, who has been our prayer leader for the last 2 years. Thank you, Jean. She took up the task and started it and launched it and did it so beautifully for 2 years. And now she's passing the torch of leading the prayer team over to Reverend Bonnie Anderson. So let's welcome Reverend Bonnie Anderson. Yeah. And there's going to be in a newsletter a little bit about Bonnie Anderson and the shift in the prayer team leader. But we want to say a humble thank you to Jean for doing such a great job. And so if you are in need of prayer, please send an email to prayers@soulcallglobal.org. We are happy to pray with you and for you. And we have a healing arts team that sends remote Reiki. And we pray for you for 2 weeks at least. And then we check in and see how you're doing. So if there's something on your heart, please let us pray with you and put some energy into your field just to help you get up over the hump, whether it's body, mind, or spirit. Every Monday night, we have Monday meditations from 8 to 9. So join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And you can get the link at soulcallglobal.org to register and come into this peace nourishing, as Reverend Christy was saying, just bringing that love from within out into the world. We thank you for your financial contributions. Also, oh gosh, there's so many things going on. We're going to be having our live musician auditions coming up Wednesday the 22nd and Wednesday the 29th right here at AIAM. So if you or someone you know has an incredible musical talent, we are looking for variations on the theme so that Sunday mornings we'll be using live music, hopefully in July. So that'll be amazing. Once again, thank you for everyone who showed up yesterday for our second anniversary and a celebration. And wherever you are on the planet, ready to say it with me? Yeah. Always remember that you are loved. Peace and blessings.
One family, one people, one planet, one love, one family.